What's going on, people, and welcome to a brand new episode of Too Many Games and Not Enough Time, the podcast where we get to speak to incredible creatives across the globe. I'm your host with the most, the one and only Mr. Midas. Now, thank you so much for all of the love on the channel. Keep on hitting those thumbs up. Keep on commenting. I love chatting to you. And remember, we have a Discord server if you want to talk some gaming with some like-minded people. Now, talking like-minded people, we have an incredible individual with us today because he is an actor, he is a gamer. You've heard his voice or seen his motion in some of your favorite games. We're talking Baldur's Gate 3, we're talking Evil Genius 2, we're talking Total Warhammer 3, but even more gassy for me, we're talking Final Fantasy 16. Josh Wishart, welcome to Too Many Games, my G. How you doing?
I'm good, man. How are you?
I'm good. I'm hyped. I'm excited to talk some FF16 with you. We're going straight into it.
Let's do it.
We've known each other for a little while, and you've obviously done voice acting in different things, and you let a little birdie slip and told me that you're doing a really incredible game that has something to do with a fantasy. You didn't tell me exactly what you told me had something to do with a fantasy, and then I clocked that it was FF16. How does it feel to be in one of the biggest games of this year?
Man, it's honestly, it's amazing. And a few months ago, I was in the Gollum game that came out, which was one of the worst reviewed games of the year. I think it was the worst reviewed game of the year. So it's nice to be on the other side of the scale in one of the better games of the year.
Oh, wow. So you literally did a spectrum. You went from... You went from a Ford, you went from a Punto to a Lexus, no, to a Lamborghini.
Yes, yeah, I did. No, honestly, man, it was amazing. And like, I know as a gamer, it's really sacrilege that I'd not played Final Fantasy before. And then when I got sent the script, because it's all done in code names, and then I like to go through the script and see if there's like a place or something that I can look up and then gives you an indicator. And it said something about a chocobo, and I was like, hell is a chocobo? And one of my colleagues was like, that's Final Fantasy. So I went back and I amended, but yeah, it's been amazing, man.
That's dope. Like, it's amazing because this Final Fantasy has been super controversial. Final Fantasies can be controversial anyway, but this has been such a controversial game because one, it's a very dark Final Fantasy. Two, it's the first one that's full real-time combat. Like, they kind of dipped their toes in that with FF7 remake, but this is full real-time combat. And some of the older fans haven't really been super happy, but I love it. And what I love as well is so many new people are actually playing this, experience it, and being like, oh my gosh, I didn't know a Final Fantasy game could be incredible. So I need to know how you felt actually playing the game, and what was your response when you first heard one of your voices as one of the NPCs?
So I've loved it. I've loved playing it. The game looks phenomenal. I can't believe it. The combat I think is great. I know the combat's, some people are like it's quite simplistic, but I'm playing on easy mode, so. But I love it, man. I think it's great fun. I think the story is great. I remember when we were recording it, there was just so much attention to detail that I was kind of like, sometimes you get a good vibe and you try not to get your hopes up about how good a game's going to be, because no one sets out to make a bad game. But in the back of my mind, every time I went into the booth, I was like, I think this is going to be a really good game. But yeah, so I first pop up as Kenneth, the chef that makes you do like 2 soup quests in the hideaway.
Oh yeah, man, like Kenneth.
yeah. And I know a lot of people are like, why has this game got me delivering soup? But like, it's a nice world building quest. So that was kind of surreal. Like, it's very weird to.
Oh, so you was in the demo even before the game released?
Yeah. I popped up a little bit in that. But it's just like, it's always very surreal hearing it. Like, when I graduated from drama school, I was like, I've been a gamer all my life, and I was like, video games were like my number one bucket list thing to do. And there's always you know, when I think back to my brother and I playing Lord of the Rings split screen on our PS2, when I'm sat there with a PS5 and it's kind of my voice coming out the TV, there's always that bit of me that's like, all right, man, that's pretty sick. Yeah.
Well, one thing that really interests me, and it's super dope, because Ben Starr, who is the main voice actor in Final Fantasy 7, who plays Clive, Final Fantasy 16, who plays Clive, he's a huge gamer as well. And how does it feel actually being an actor and booking your first gaming job? Like, talk me through actually going through that, because obviously you being an actor, voice acting in video games is probably not the first thing you're thinking that you're going to be booking, or the first thing you'd even expect if that's a role that you'd ever get. Talk me through that first experience actually booking your first voice acting role in a game.
So I had a voice agent, and I was doing like sort of Spotify commercials and a few other bits, and that was great. But I was like, where are the game auditions? And she was like, I'm trying, and I was like, okay, yeah. And she finally got me an audition for a PC game called Spellforce 3, and I sent the audition tape off, and I kept being like, have you heard anything? And she was like, no, I've not heard. And I was auditioning for a role in a TV series, and it went really badly. And I came out of the audition room, and I was sat on a bench in like Hammersmith, just like sort of just staring at the pavement, like that was atrocious. And then she texted me, and she was like, "You're going to be in Spellforce." And I remember like having a little cry on this bench, because it was just so, like, it was just amazing. There's, you know, it's for me personally, like, it's just not something that gets old when you get a new script through, or it's just the best, man. It's the best job in the world.
So to think, moving on, how many years later you'd get Gollum and FF16 as well. You went from trash to amazing twice in a row. Like, who ever thought that could happen? No, I'm only joking. So let's talk about your gaming experience, because I know Lord of the Rings is one of the games that was really kind of pinnacle to you growing up. So tell me, like, obviously I know that's a game for you, but tell me a couple of the games that really meant something to you and your siblings, and how you kind of got into becoming a gamer before you got your voice in them.
My first game, I think, was FIFA 98 on the PS1. I think my dad bought it for me. Oh, well, no, that was my first console. I had like a Game Boys before then. And it's, I've loved Skyrim. Got me through a really rough time. I was going through a really rough breakup, and I kind of became a bit of a hermit. I think I emerged sort of 600 hours later with like a huge beard and sort of like very, very sort of reactive to the sunlight. But Skyrim, I love. I love an RPG, something I can really get lost in the world in. And I think that's why I love games that just don't just kind of create an environment, they create a world. And that's one thing I always think that Bethesda do really well. They create worlds, and that's what I'm looking for, is just being able to immerse myself in something. So yeah, Bethesda, like the Fallout games, Skyrim games, I've always played from release day. The Lord of the Rings games I've loved. Call of Duty, I'm talking, people forget there was like Call of Duty 1, 2, Big Red 1, the old, when they were just doing World War II. I had like just an old laptop that would sound like it was going to pass out every time I played them, and I was playing on the trackpad of the laptop. But yeah,
that's real. You're taking it back. I love it. It's funny because like Skyrim comes up so much, and it's a game that I haven't played because I've never played Skyrim. I get people every single time someone comes on the podcast and I tell them I haven't played Skyrim, they get out my neck. But it's mad because I play so much RPGs, but my RPG experience has always been JRPGs. I started on the Final Fantasies, the Skies of Arcadia, the Secret of Manners. That's what an RPG was to me. And the first Western RPG I ever discovered was The Witcher. So The Witcher Wild Hunt was my first one, and I fell in love with that because Geralt just reminds me of a grown-up Link from Zelda. Like if Link Link was a bad man and he slept with women and he smoked, then he would be Geralt. So that was the first Western RPG that really sat me in. But I'm gonna have to play Skyrim because you're the second person today alone to speak about like whose reaction is Midas Go and play it. So it is something that I'm gonna play. I think I'll probably just jump on it either on my Switch or on I got the Logitech G Cloud.
Oh,
so I can
sick.
I can just sit down on a couch and kind of play it like that. So yeah, that's super cool. So you've been able to voice acting many kind of games, like obviously Total War's completely different from something like Evil Genius. What is your process when you are kind of envisioning these characters, and does playing games as a kid, does that help, or is it mainly just your kind of acting skills that you go in there with?
I think it definitely does help if you have an understanding of the style. I do quite a lot of sort of JRPG mobile games, and I've definitely found that with auditions, the first feedback I had from the first one I booked, which was for a game called Another Eden, It Can't Be on Time and Space. It's like a JRPG mobile game. And they were like, yeah, as soon as we heard the audition, we knew that this was it, because you just knew the style. So I definitely think it helps. And when I've had friends that are getting into voice acting and they're not gamers, I do try and encourage people to, even if you're not going to game, just to watch the games so you have a good understanding of the style. One thing I love about video game auditions is you don't always, but most of the time you'll get like the character concept art, like just like from the artists. And I find it's a really enjoyable part of the process, is just sitting there and being like, what's your voice? You know, they send you some lines, they send you a picture, sometimes a reference. They'll be like, we're kind of after this style, and it might be a YouTube video to someone else's voice. But that's for me is a really fun part of the process, is sitting there and looking at a picture of someone and being like, who are you? What's your voice?
That's sick. I love that. So Josh, we've been super lucky since the last generation with some of the games that we've got. We've got some of the most incredible games that I've ever played in my life. I want you to give me 2 games of the last 10 years that have impacted you as a gamer. So 2 games that have really made an impact in you. Doesn't have to be your favorite, but it has to be 2 games that have made an impact in you as a gamer in the last 10 years.
Oh, good question. The Witcher Wild Hunt's up there for me. I was really late to it. I think I picked it up a couple times and I hated it. And then I think it was in one of those periods where there's no games coming out, and I was like, oh, fine, I'll give it a go. And I just lost myself in it. And I think that was kind of one of the games that definitely sort of made me want to get into acting, because the characters are in it are also rich. It's a phenomenal cast, and I think when you look at games like that, you kind of go, this should be the benchmark for games. And then I think that's why we notice it more when games don't match up to that, because there's so much inconsistency in the gaming world. And another would probably be Star Wars Jedi, the first Star Wars Jedi game, Fallen Order, because I just love Star Wars, man. And we've had a real sort of market void of Star Wars games, and there were just never I watched the Star Wars films on VHS. Like there will never not be an enjoyable thing about swinging lightsabers at stormtroopers. And I think to just kind of finally be able to go back to that universe, and the combat was amazing, and the characters were great, and it was just more rich storytelling. That for me was just one that I just played again and again, because I just think there's so many wonderful universes, and I don't necessarily think that we have enough games in places like Lord of the Rings and Star Wars. So I loved that game, man.
Yeah, man, that was some good answers. First of all, I have to say that The Witcher Wild Hunt to today has the best side quests in any game I've ever played.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that's a little lackluster for me in FF16. A lot, the payoff of some of the side quests are really good. Like, you get really good narrative moments between something that's happened with a character, but the actual action is a lot of kind of fetch questy.
It's so many fetch quests.
Yeah, proper fetch questy, and The Witcher was the first time in a long time that I played a game And I didn't even care about doing the main mission sometimes. Like, Siri, where are you? It's your business. I don't care. I want to go and get that woman's pot. She got a pot and there's a ghost holding that pot. Siri, do your thing, because I don't even know you. And it was immaculate how they put those side quests together, and even down to like the DLC of both of the DLCs of
they were huge.
Both of the DLCs, like Blood and Wine, is better than certain game stories.
Yeah.
Just the story in that DLC is better than some of the games that are like meant to be narrative games. So I fully agree with you that. Fam, look.
No way. No way.
There is Cow's hilt right there. I am like you. I love Star Wars, and I feel like Star Wars is incredible. And it's so weird because as incredible as Star Wars is, there's not that many Star Wars games that blow my mind. Like, I think the Lego Star Wars games are really fun, and like the pod racers and stuff like that. And there has been some Star Wars games that I've enjoyed, but nothing has matched what the Star Wars movies was. And when I played Jedi Fallen Order, I'm not the Souls guy. I can't play hard games. I can't parry. My parry game is trash. I cannot parry for nothing. I feel like I'm an 80-year-old man when I'm like, how did I miss that? Like, I can't parry. And that game just did everything that it needed to as a Star Wars fan. Like, one, I really enjoyed Cal. I think Cal's a really good protagonist. And like, I'm still old school. Like, Luke Skywalker's always going to be my favorite Jedi, but Cal was such a good character. The story was great. The world was rich, and it proper felt like you was a Jedi. It felt badass. Like, the combat was so well, and Survivor has even taken it to the next level. Like, Survivor's combat is literally one of my favorite kind of hardish games, and I liked that. Even though they went that kind of Souls hard games, they gave you options. So you can play it at a normal level, you can play it at that super hard Souls, or you can play it at a much basicer level. And I think that's really important because those games, like, aesthetically don't really appease me anyway. I don't really like that kind of dark, dingy vampire. But I remember trying to play Sekiro because I love that Japanese aesthetic. Fam, I didn't get past the first boss. I did not beat the first boss in Sekiro. I'm like, I cannot parry. So, like, everyone's like, yeah, you need to learn. Yeah, but you can't learn to parry, fam. Like, if you can't do it, you can't do it. Like I'm not getting past this guy. So I really liked that if your parry weren't greatest, you could do this, and immaculate stories. And I feel like that's where we've kind of got in a generation of gaming, the God of Wars, The Last of Us. Like, we've really been able to get some super immaculate stories that kind of sink your teeth into while you're playing. Josh, we're running out of time. We're only a short form podcast, but before we go, what is a game that you would love? Put your thinking cap on now. Okay. What is a game that you would love to voice a main character lead in? So if they had any game that we've already had and we got a sequel to it, it doesn't and you could be the lead pro tag in that game, what would it be?
It would be Red Dead Redemption 3.
Oh wow. All right, tell me why. Break it down for me.
Again, like the games, no one does world building like the guys at Rockstar. Like, their characters are so fleshed out, and that's how the Red Dead stories have just gotten better and better. And there's just so much attention to detail in those games. And stuff like with Red Dead Redemption 2, like, every single person in that game, even the NPCs, is motion capture. None of it is animated. And that's why it looks so real. They really just put the time and the effort into the games. They never sort of come out and go, it's going to be a year. Like, they don't do annual releases. And that care is reflected in the storytelling and the scripts, and the assembled cast they always have is amazing. And who just doesn't want to walk around shooting people?
What would be your character's name? Just throwing it out of the hat. Give yourself a name.
I think it would be something like his name would be like Utah.
Utah, you know, that's so random. All right, cool. I'm with it. Utah. So, Rockstar, if you're listening, you get me? Man's here, he's ready to voice the act. You get me? He's got the face, he can do the motion, he can do the Utah thing. So if you need him, he is here.
I'm ready, coach. I'm on the bench. Put me in.
Get me? Yeah. Josh is here. And you are here. And thank you so much for staying to the end of the video. You are the MVPs. Let me know in the comments below, what is a game that has impacted you? What's a game that's really been incredible for you? Josh, before you go, where can the people find you?
I'm on Twitter and Instagram. Both of them are Josh Wichard, which is Wichard. And that's pretty much the only social media I use.
Yep, you can find him on there, and you can find him in loads of games. I've been Mr. Midas. He's been Josh. You've been amazing. And we out of here. Peace.